Hello, everyone. This is Crota giving you a shoutcast, or not a shoutcast, a map review of the Season 3 ladder map pool updates. Now, those of you guys who keep track of the playtest realm now knows that there are new maps that they are currently trying to test. And I just wanted to give you my thoughts and opinions as Season 3 should just be coming up around the corner. We'll see what's happening and what they plan to do. Now, taking a look at the map pool, I'm not going to try to read any of the descriptions here. You can go ahead and just check out the website for yourself, but this is just my thoughts. The very first 1v1 test map, it is a pretty standard map here in the map pool. There's 4 spawning locations, 1 on each corner. Now, one of the things that kind of confused me is that this set of destructible rocks right here that is at every single expansion location. What it does is it actually allows an easier way in and out of your base and also gaining sight because there is a little bit of brush here. So that brush is going to be very interesting to try to hold and defend as siege tanks with sight are able to attack back without any melee or range units being able to fire back on the inside unless you have sight on the other side as well. Now, a couple of important things to note is that the center is very wide open. There are 4 Xel'Naga watchtowers. I do not know the sight or the range of sight on those Xel'Naga watchtowers, but I'm assuming that it reveals a decent portion of the center portion of the map. It probably reveals into this location here, just beyond the sight range of another Xel'Naga watchtower, so that you can't see the other Xel'Naga watchtowers if someone's controlling it, or if you can only see if a unit is there or if the Xel'Naga watchtower is activated. So these Xel'Naga watchtowers will be very important. The Xel'Naga watchtowers point away from the center of the map, so siege tanks there, missile turrets are going to be very, very powerful as well. The third base is pretty easy to defend as long as you're able to get into this location here if you're looking at it from the south side, but there is also a high ground ledge that you have to worry about. So similar to, I guess, not Krevas, what map am I thinking? Not Backwater Gulch. There's one of the ladder maps where there's a set of destructible rocks as a second entrance. This time around, it is a high ground that can take and just deal a lot of damage into the mineral patch, also similar to the Xel'Naga Cavern. So this map does look pretty interesting. There are 4 spawning locations. The only interesting thing I have to say, or the only concern I have, is that Zerg players may find it difficult to take this natural expansion, as there is a lot of walking distance between the main hatchery starting location and the natural. So because of that, a large walking location, the queen is going to take a little bit more time to transfer. A lot of the times, no, the queen now lays on a creep tumor and starts to walk over. So that may not be an issue, but we will definitely have to see. Moving along to the second map. The second map is a definite rush map. You can take a look at it. There are 4 spawning locations once again, so 4 straight spawning locations. But what's interesting about this is that the 4 spawning locations automatically dump straight into the center portion of the map. So it is very easy to just scout out very quickly, and the walking distance from here to here is pretty much the same as the walking distance from here to here. I know it's a little bit longer, but because of the turns and the corners that you have to do, the walking distance should be pretty similar. There are also a lot of destructible rocks. You'll see the destructible rocks here that lead to the natural expansion, but there's also a weird set of rocks right here. And one of the interesting things about these rocks is that it leads to your third base here, and so you are able to try to establish up a third base, but once these rocks are taken down, because there is a lot of surface area, so melee units and other range units can really get on that concave or ball up and try to take that down. You have a very wide ramp inside your base as well. You also have to be careful, as there is also a set of gold mineral patches that's coming off of this side as well. So if you are cross spawn, it may play a little bit differently as opposed to if it's a north or south or east and west spawn. So that's another thing to be careful of on this particular rush map. I don't know the official names yet. I haven't been on the playtest realm. I should probably start doing that for you guys in just a little bit later and trying to play a couple of these games. Now, this map, and I know some of you guys are very interested in seeing this map. I believe is this a snow map or a caverns map? It actually looks like It kind of looks like a cavern snow map. I know some of the players out there were looking for a little bit more diversity in terms of the maps, and I think Blizzard just does a really good job in this one. It looks visually different than many of the maps that are currently out there. And this is going to be one of those maps where it definitely changes if you are a north and south spawn versus an east and west spawn. You can take a look. Distance by air is very, very close. If you spawn directly north or south, Reapers, Colossi will both be able to get in a lot of damage. However, if you are a full cross spawn, distance by air is very far, and the center Zonaga watchtowers and these sets of destructible rocks on the north and the south as well open up for a lot of very interesting maneuvering tactics to try to get across the map. And there is a center Zonaga watchtower. I'm not 100% sure if that Zonaga watchtower is actually blocking pathing, and you actually need to go north and south around this center portion in order to get to the other side. That would be a pretty interesting little doodad or a little bit of a tidbit there if that is a case of Zonaga watchtower that prevents you from getting to the other side. So a Marine holding it there would be better than a Zergling, as a Zergling wouldn't be able to actually attack the Marine back. Anyways, there are a lot of expansion locations. The third base, a little bit more difficult to take on this map. As you can see, there is much more of a walking distance. Your second base, pretty easy, but it's not as bad as Slag Pits. And Slag Pits, it really felt like you really had to go out of your way for a third base. In this particular instance, there is at least always going to be a third base that you can take. If your opponent spawns over here and you're doing a full cross spawn, you can take this expansion. Or even this gold mineral expansion here on the low ground, as you can try to gather your forces here and then also watch these rocks over here. If it is a north and south spawn, you obviously don't try to take the gold. You try to move into this location here and you start expanding from east to west. So I believe this is just one of those other normal maps as well. Now, finally, going into the fourth map here, this is a straight up macro map as you take a look at it. And there are a lot of mineral patches. There is a very wide open center with gold mineral patches as well. So Terran players will be able to set up planetary fortresses, perhaps even get siege tanks up on that high ground in order to gain sight and try to defend the locations. Interestingly enough, there are also, and if you take a look at it, there's also an easy way for walkers to get inside your base, or cliff jumpers. So Colossi and Reapers can really jump into this location here and get a lot of site information. There's also a lot of dead space. And what I mean by dead space is space where walker units cannot get to. So air units will have superiority. Banshee harassment, Void Ray pressure, both are going to be very, very viable options. And if you take a look at it, you do have a very easy third base to take, similar to Metalopolis, where you have where you go down onto the low ground and then you come back onto the high ground and you have a third base here. It shares a common choke point. So you should theoretically be able to hold that expansion pretty easily. There is a set of destructible rocks here, though. So you do have to be careful and make sure that if your opponent does take down these rocks and you have some static defense in order to fend off against that attack, Protoss players may once as well just set up a pylon, get some gateways and some cannons there, and play it almost similar to Metalopolis, except for in a different layout without the center or two center Xel'Naga watchtowers. Now, during a Q&A session, I did talk with David Kim and some of the other just game balance and designers, and currently in season 2, there's the four most vetoed maps I believe are number 1, Tal'Darim Altar, number 2, Scrap Station, number 3 would be Slag Pits, and number 4 is Delta Quadrant. Now, it's pretty interesting to actually see Tal'Darim Altar as one of the most popular thumbs down map, and it's really because of the racial imbalances. Terran players I know personally, I absolutely hate Tal'Darim Altar. It is a very, very hair-pulling map. It is just not a fun map for me to play on. But I don't think that map will be taken out of the map pool just because it is so common in GSL. In the GSL, in a lot of tournament play. Maps like Scrap Station, Delta Quadrant, and Slag Pits, though, may be phased out. Don't quote me on this. This is just a theory, as I know that Blizzard is really trying to encourage more gameplay and just players that have fun. So maybe those 3 maps will be taken out, and some of these 3 or 4 of these maps will be introduced. Now, there is no definitive timeline on when Season 3 will begin, but I am looking forward to season 3. The difference between season 1 and season 2 didn't feel like all that big of a difference. I think maps were added midway through season 1, so there was really no defining difference that much. This time around, or I may be misremembering or misquoting, but this time around, it looks like the maps are going to be much more interesting and a lot more fun to play on, and we'll see whether or not these maps stick around. Now, one of the important things to note that is mentioned in this article is that the maps are not designed for like only for the highest level of StarCraft 2. It is not designed as GSL tournament maps. These maps are supposed to be fun for all ages across all skill ranges. So if you ask yourself, why don't they only introduce the GSL maps or the ESL maps or any of those maps, remember, those maps are designed for the top 1%, not even top, top 1 to 2% of the players out there. And BattleNet needs to accommodate all 100% of StarCraft players. So yeah, don't worry about that. These maps do look pretty fair to me. It looks like I will be having a lot of fun in the upcoming season. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you guys think of these maps. If you think I've misquoted or misrepresented, or you've played on these maps on the playtest realms and have some additional insight, feel free to leave comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.